The planet was a bad place. Its official name was XT-77. The people who worked there called it Dust Ball. The name was perfect. The air was thick with red dust. The sky was the color of rust. The wind never stopped howling. It was a place for people who wanted to be forgotten, or for people who had no other choice. June was one of those with no other choice. He was a logistics coordinator. His job was to know where things were. He knew how many crates of food were in Storage Bay 4. He knew how much water was in the recyclers. He knew when the next supply ship was due. It was a boring job, but June was good at it. He liked the order. He liked making lists and checking them twice. In the chaos of the dust ball, his small office was a place of quiet control. He looked at the screen in front of him. The numbers for the mineral shipment were almost final. His fingers tapped on the desk. The storm outside was getting worse. Red dust scratched against the window like it wanted to get in. A woman's voice came from the door. "Still working, June?" The shift ended an hour ago. It was Sue, a geologist. She was wrapping a thick scarf around her neck. "Almost done," June said without looking up. "This shipment needs to be perfect." "The company is watching," Sue laughed. "The company is always watching. They are probably watching us sleep. Come on. The food tonight is supposed to be not completely terrible." "I will be there soon," June said. "I just need to finish this." Sue left and the metal door hissed shut behind her. June was alone again with the sound of the wind and the hum of the computers. He finished the report and sent it. He leaned back in his chair. He looked at the small, flat picture on his desk. It was of him and his sister, Hannah. They were both smiling. The sun was bright behind them. It was from a different life. A life before the dust ball. Hannah was a pilot. She flew a small, fast ship between the stars. She was the opposite of June. He was quiet and liked to stay in one place. She was loud and always moving. She hated that he worked here. She said it was a dead-end job on a dead-end rock, but he told her the money was good. He told her he was saving up. For what, he did not know. Maybe for a small ship of his own. Maybe just for a place where the sky was blue. An alarm beeped on his console. A low-priority alert, probably a sensor ghost. The storm did that sometimes. It made the old equipment see things. He was about to silence it when the lights flickered. The hum of the bass grew quiet. For a second, there was only the sound of the wind. Then the emergency lights came on, casting a dull red glow. This was not normal. June stood up. He went to the window. He could not see anything but a wall of swirling red dust. Then a shape appeared in the storm. It was big and black and wrong. It was not a ship he recognized. It was not a human ship. It was long and sharp like a knife made for stabbing planets. It moved silently through the storm, unaffected by the screaming wind. His heart started to beat very fast. He ran to his desk. He pressed the comms button for the base chief. "Chief Kim, do you see this?" "What is that?" Only static answered. He tried the security channel. More static, a new sound started. It was a low thrumming noise. He could feel it in his bones. It made his teeth hurt. The black ship was now directly over the main habitat dome. A blue light glowed from its underside. June ran out of his office into the main corridor. People were running. Some were shouting. No one knew what was happening. The main door to the habitat dome exploded inward. It did not blow apart, it melted. And through the hole came the aliens. They were tall. Very tall. They had long, thin legs and arms. Their skin was a pale gray color like a dead fish. Their heads were large and their black eyes were huge without any white in them. They held weapons that looked like they were grown, not built. They moved with a quick, jerky motion. Like birds. One of them pointed its weapon. A bolt of bright green energy shot out. It hit a man named Day, who was running towards the emergency armory. Day did not scream. He just fell apart. His body turned to dust and smoke. Panic took over. Pure terror. June froze for a second. His mind, the part that loved order, tried to understand. Aliens, hostile. Weapons are lethal. No communication. His brain filed the information away. Then his body started working again. He turned and ran the other way. Not to fight. There was no fighting this. He ran towards the lower levels. Towards the old mining tunnels. Maybe they could hide there, this way. He yelled to a small group of people who were standing frozen in fear. They followed him. Sue was among them, her face white. They ran down a metal staircase. The thrumming sound was getting louder. The whole base was shaking. June led them through a maze of pipes and storage rooms. He knew this place better than anyone. He knew every shortcut, every forgotten closet. They reached a heavy door marked Tunnel Access 3. June typed a code into the keypad. The light stayed red. The power was out. He pulled a manual release lever. It was stiff, but it moved. The door hissed open. "Go! Get deep into the tunnels," he shouted. The others rushed past him. Sue grabbed his arm. "Aren't you coming?" "I will be right behind you," he said. "I need to make sure no one else is coming." It was a lie. He did not know why he said it. He just knew he had to go back. He could not just hide while others were still up there. He ran back the way he came. The corridors were a nightmare. The blue light from the alien ship was shining through the broken dome, illuminating the red dust in the air. It looked like hell. He saw more of the gray aliens. They were not searching. They were hunting. They moved in pairs, their big black eyes scanning everything. They did not speak. They only clicked. A sharp, fast clicking sound. June stayed low, hiding behind crates and machinery. He saw two aliens drag a screaming woman from a hiding spot under a console. They did not kill her. They held her arms, and a third alien touched a device to her neck. She glowed with the same blue light as their ship and then vanished. They were taking people. June's blood went cold. He had to get to the comms room. If he could send a distress signal, maybe someone would come. Hannah would come. He knew she would. He moved as fast as he could. He was almost at the comms room when he heard a cry. It was a child. A little girl named G.A. Her father worked in the mess hall. She was hiding in a large metal locker, but the door was stuck open. She was curled into a ball, crying. One of the aliens heard her. Its head snapped towards the sound. It started walking towards the locker, its weapon raised. June did not think. He ran out from his hiding spot. He was not a hero. He was not a soldier. He was just a man who saw a child in danger. He grabbed a heavy metal wrench from a tool cart. "Hey!" he yelled. The alien turned. Its black eyes focused on him. It made a clicking sound that sounded like curiosity. It was not afraid of him. Not at all. June threw the wrench. It was a stupid thing to do. The wrench hit the alien in the chest. It made a dull clang. The alien did not even flinch. It just tilted its head. Then it raised its weapon. The end of the weapon glowed green. June closed his eyes, but the shot never came. He heard a different click, a more complex series of sounds. He opened his eyes. A second alien had arrived. This one had different markings on its gray chest. It was pointing at June. A small device in its hand was beeping rapidly. The first alien lowered its weapon. The second alien took a step closer to June. It scanned him with the device. The beeping got faster. The alien's large black eyes seemed to widen. It made a sharp, commanding click. June took a step back. He looked towards the locker. The little girl was gone. She had run away. Good. The two aliens moved towards him. They were fast, too fast. June turned to run, but one of them was already in front of him. It grabbed his arm. Its grip was like iron. It was incredibly strong. He struggled. He kicked. It was useless. The alien with the device touched it to June's neck. It was cold. A sharp pain shot through him. He felt a strange sensation, like his whole body was falling asleep at once. The world started to dissolve into a bright, blinding blue light. The last thing he saw was the red dust swirling in the hellish blue glow. The last thing he heard was the relentless clicking sound of the aliens. And then there was nothing. The first thing he felt was cold. A deep metal cold that seeped into his skin. The second thing he felt was a dull ache in his neck. June opened his eyes. He was not on the dust ball. The red dust and the howling wind were gone. He was lying on a flat, hard surface. The air smelled strange. It was clean, but it had a sharp chemical smell, like a hospital, but wrong. He was in a small room. The walls, the floor, and the ceiling were all the same smooth, pale gray color. There was no door that he could see. There was no window. A soft white light came from the ceiling. There was nothing in the room except for the platform he was lying on. He sat up, his head spun. He touched his neck where the pain was. There was a small, smooth bump under his skin. It felt like a piece of plastic or metal. He tried to remember what happened. The aliens, the ship, the blue light. They had taken him. He was on their ship. He was a prisoner. A wave of fear washed over him. He took a deep breath. He had to stay calm. Panic would not help. He stood up. His legs felt weak. He walked to one of the walls. It was perfectly smooth. He ran his hands over it. He could not feel a seam or a crack. He knocked on it. It made a quiet, solid sound. He walked the perimeter of the room. It was a perfect cube. He counted his steps. 10 steps by 10 steps. A small box. He did not know how long he was there. There was no way to tell time. He sat back down on the platform. He thought about Hannah. Was she looking for him? Did anyone get a message out? He hoped the little girl G.A. had escaped. Thinking about the others made his chest hurt. He pushed the thoughts away. He had to focus on now. Suddenly, a section of the wall vanished. It did not slide open. It just disappeared. 2 of the tall, gray aliens stood there. They were exactly as he remembered. Their big black eyes stared at him without any expression. They clicked at each other. The sound was fast and sharp. One of them held a weapon. The other held a small flat device. They stepped into the room. June stood up and backed away until he hit the wall. The alien with the device pointed it at him. A beam of green light scanned his body from head to feet. The device made a beep. The alien looked at it and clicked once. The other alien made a gesture with its weapon, a gesture that clearly meant, "Come here." June did not move. He was too scared. The alien took a quick, jerky step forward. It was very fast. It grabbed June's arm. The grip was incredibly strong. It pulled him out of the room. The other alien followed. The corridor outside was the same pale gray color. It was quiet. The only sounds were the soft clicks of the alien's feet and the sound of his own breathing. They walked for a long time. They passed many other smooth, seamless walls. He wondered if other humans were behind them. They entered a different room. This one was larger and filled with strange machines. They looked like they were grown from crystal and metal. Wires and tubes pulsed with a soft inner light. In the center of the room was a tall, flat table. A third alien was there. This one was different. It had more intricate markings on its chest and wore a longer, darker tunic. June thought of this one as the boss. The boss looked at June with its black, liquid eyes. It made a series of slow, deliberate clicks. The 2 guard aliens pushed June towards the table. "Wait," June said. His voice was a dry croak. "What are you doing?" The boss alien tilted its head. It seemed surprised he had spoken. It picked up a different device and pointed it at June's throat. A voice came from the device. It was a flat electronic voice without any feeling. It spoke in his language. "Specimen 734, you will comply." "Specimen?" June said. "My name is June." The electronic voice clicked from the device, translating his words for the boss. The boss made a dismissive clicking sound. It gestured to the table. The guards forced June onto the cold, hard surface. Metal bands slid out from the sides and clamped his wrists and ankles. He was trapped. He struggled, but it was useless. The boss alien approached with a long, needle-like tool. June squeezed his eyes shut. He felt a sharp prick on his arm. It was not too painful. It was like getting a shot. He felt a cold sensation moving up his arm. The aliens were taking his blood. For a long time, they did tests. They scanned his brain. They measured his muscle density. They tested his reflexes. They were very thorough. They were not rough, but they were not gentle either. They treated him like a piece of meat, a thing to be studied. The boss alien watched everything, its face unreadable. Sometimes it would click at the others and they would adjust a machine. Finally, the test stopped. The metal bands released him. He sat up, rubbing his wrists. The boss alien looked at a screen full of strange, swirling symbols. It made a long series of clicks that sounded like a question. The electronic voice from the device spoke to June. Physiology is substandard. Muscle mass is low. Bone density is acceptable but not remarkable. Cognitive function is within predicted parameters for a primitive species. June felt a strange mix of insult and fear. They thought he was weak. They thought humans were primitive. Maybe that was good. Maybe they would lose interest and let him go. But he knew deep down that was not true. They had taken him for a reason. "Why am I here?" June asked. The boss alien listened to the translation. It looked at June. It clicked a short phrase. The device said, "You possess an anomaly." An echo. "It is dormant. It is of interest." An anomaly. What anomaly? The boss alien did not answer. It simply turned away. The guard aliens grabbed June's arms and pulled him off the table. They took him back to his small gray room. The wall sealed shut behind him, becoming seamless again. He was alone. He sat on the platform feeling more helpless than ever. They were not going to let him go. He was a specimen, a thing they found interesting. He thought about the anomaly. What did that mean? He was just a normal man. There was nothing special about him. Time passed. He had no way to know how much. He was given food. A section of the wall would open just enough for a small tray to slide in. The food was a bland gray paste. It had no taste, but it filled his stomach. Water came in a simple cup. He started to notice patterns. The guards came at regular intervals. He did not have a clock, but his body had a rhythm. He estimated that the guards came every 6 hours. 2 of them would take him to a small room where he was allowed to clean himself with a spray of mist and use a waste receptacle set into the wall. It was humiliating, but it was a routine. He began to watch the guards closely. He learned to tell them apart. One was slightly taller. Another had a small chip on its wrist armor. He learned their steps. He learned the way they clicked. He started to understand the different sounds. A short, sharp click was a command. A series of faster clicks was a conversation. A single, low click was an acknowledgement. He did not let them see him watching. He kept his head down. He acted scared and defeated. It was not hard to act because he was very scared. But inside his mind was working. The part of him that was a logistics coordinator was waking up. He started to map the ship in his head. He remembered the turns they took to the testing room and to the cleaning room. He counted his steps. He noted where the corridors were wider, where the ceiling was higher. He noticed that the aliens relied heavily on their technology. The doors, the lights, the food dispensers, everything was automated and centralized. They seemed to trust their systems completely. They never looked for manual overrides or backup controls. Why would they? Their system was perfect, but June knew no system was perfect. There was always a flaw, a weak point, a place where the order broke down. He just had to find it. During one of his trips to the cleaning room, he saw something. A small dark object on the floor near the waste receptacle. It was half hidden in a seam in the wall. It was a piece of one of their tools. It was about the size of his thumb, made of a hard, black material. It had a very sharp edge. His heart beat faster. This was his chance. When the guards were not looking, he quickly bent down and picked it up. He hid it in the palm of his hand. It was cold and sharp. Back in his cell, he examined it. It was a broken fragment, maybe from a scanner or a cutting tool. One end was jagged where it had snapped off. The other end was wickedly sharp. It was a shard, a piece of trash they had missed. It was not a weapon. Not really. He could never fight them with this. But it was a tool. It was something. It was a variable their perfect system had not accounted for. He found a place to hide it. He noticed a tiny, almost invisible gap where the platform met the wall. He pushed the sharp shard into the gap. It was safe there. He sat back down. He looked at the smooth, blank walls. He was still a prisoner. He was still scared. But now he had a secret. He had a plan. It was a small, fragile plan, but it was his. He would be patient. He would wait for his moment. He would watch and he would learn. And when the time was right, he would introduce a flaw into their perfect system. The routine was the cage that held his mind together. The guards came. He was taken to the testing room. He was scanned and measured. The boss alien, whom he now thought of as director, watched with its cold black eyes. The tests were always the same. They were looking for something. The anomaly. They never found it. June could see the frustration in the sharp, irritated clicks the director made. Then he was taken to the cleaning room. Then back to his cell. The bland food paste arrived. He ate it. He drank the water. He slept on the hard platform, and the whole thing started again. He did not fight it. He played his part. He was Specimen 734. He was quiet. He was cooperative. He was broken. He let his shoulders slump. He let a little fear show in his eyes when the guards came close. He was the perfect prisoner, but inside he was working. His mind was a map slowly being filled in. He knew that it was 47 steps from his cell to the first left turn. The corridor there was wider, and the ceiling had a pulsing blue conduit running through it. He guessed that was a power line. The testing room was 72 steps from that turn. The cleaning room was a different path, 39 steps to a right turn, then 20 more. He also learned the guards' routines. There were 3 pairs that rotated. One pair was lazy. They walked slower and their clicks were more relaxed. Another pair was very strict. They never took their eyes off him. The third pair was the one he watched most closely. One of them, the one with a chipped piece of armor on its wrist, was careless. Sometimes it would not watch him the whole time in the cleaning room. It would look at a device on its arm. This was the guard he waited for days past, or what felt like days. He had hidden the sharp shard in his palm during every trip, just in case. But the strict guards were always there, or the lazy ones were too unpredictable. He needed the careless one. Finally, the moment came. It was a cleaning cycle. The two guards were the pair he hoped for, the one with the chipped armor and its partner. They took him to the small, wet room. The mist spray turned on. The guard with the chip looked away, checking the device on its arm. Its partner was standing by the door looking out into the corridor. This was it. His heart was a drum in his chest. He pretended to stumble, bumping into the waste receptacle. As he did, he used the shard to scratch the wall near the floor. It was a tiny mark, but it was a start. He needed to see what was behind the walls. The guard with the chip turned and clicked sharply at him. June held up his hands, looking scared. The guard gestured for him to hurry. As they walked back to his cell, June's mind raced. The scratch had revealed something. Under the smooth gray surface was a layer of woven metal, and behind that he saw a bundle of thin, colorful wires. It was not some strange alien technology. It was wiring. He understood wiring. He had fixed broken consoles on the dust ball. Colors usually meant different functions. Red for primary power, blue for data, yellow for environmental controls. He had found a thread. Now he had to pull it. His chance came sooner than he expected. The next time the careless guard was on duty, something different happened. They were taking him back from testing. The guard with the chipped armor was in front. The other was behind June. They approached his cell. The guard in front lifted its hand to the wall. A section of it glowed and began to disappear. This was normal. But then a loud alarm blared somewhere else in the ship. A different sound, a deep whooping noise. The guard in front flinched. Its hand jerked. The wall to his cell vanished, but a second later, a faint shimmering energy field flickered where the wall had been and then went out. The energy field was down. The door was open. For how long? 3 seconds? Maybe 4? The guard behind him shoved him forward. "Move!" The electronic voice from its device barked. June did not think. He acted. As he stumbled through the open doorway, he did not go to the center of the room. He spun around. The guard with the chipped armor was turning to leave, its back to him. The other guard was already walking away, distracted by the distant alarm. June's hand tightened around the sharp shard. He remembered the anatomy charts from the tests. He remembered a cluster of nerves they had scanned at the base of the skull, near where the spine connected. It was a vulnerable spot. He took one quick, silent step forward. He was not a fighter. He was not strong, but he was precise. He jammed the sharp point of the shard into the exact spot on the guard's neck, right under the rim of its helmet. The alien made a gurgling click. Its body stiffened. Its legs gave way. It collapsed to the floor without another sound. It was not dead, but it was completely disabled. June's blood was roaring in his ears. He moved fast. He pulled the guard's body into his cell. He took the weapon from its limp hand. It felt heavy and warm. He did not know how to use it. He looked at the alien device on its wrist. It had buttons and a small screen. He grabbed that too, then he stepped back into the corridor. The wall to his cell shimmered and reappeared, sealing shut. He was outside. He was free from his cell, but he was not free. He was in a metal maze full of monsters. He did not run. He did not panic. He had a plan. It was a crazy plan, but it was all he had. He was not going to try to find an escape pod. They would expect that. They would be waiting there. He was going to do the one thing they would never expect a primitive, frightened specimen to do. He was going to go deeper into the ship. He was going to find the heart of their perfect system and make it sick. He moved quickly, staying close to the wall. His mind called up the map he had built. He needed to find a maintenance shaft, a way to get inside the walls. All ships had them. Even this one, he found a vent cover. It was low on the wall near the floor. It was held in place by a simple magnetic latch. He pressed the buttons on the guard's wrist device randomly. One of them made a light flash. Another made a low hum. He kept pressing. Finally, a thin beam of energy shot from the device and the vent cover popped open with a quiet click. It was a tight squeeze. He pulled himself into the dark, narrow space. It was a crawl space full of pipes and the colorful wires he had seen. He pulled the vent cover closed behind him. He was in the walls of the alien ship. He started to crawl. It was hot and cramped. The air was thick with the smell of ozone and hot metal. He followed the thickest bundles of wire. He was looking for a central point, a place where all the systems came together. He crawled for a long time. He heard the clicking of aliens in the corridors outside. He heard the whooping alarm still sounding. They had found the guard. They knew he was loose. He had to move faster. He found a larger room. It was not a corridor. He peeked through a small grate in the floor. Below was a room full of humming, crystalline machines. Lights pulsed inside them. This was it. This was a control room, an engineering room. He saw two aliens below. They were not guards. They were smaller and wore different tunics. Technicians. They were working at a large console, their long fingers tapping on glowing panels. He needed to get them out of the room. He looked at the weapon he had taken. He had no idea how it worked. He pointed it away from the grate, towards a dark corner of the crawl space. He found a button on the side and pressed it. A bolt of green energy shot out and hit the wall. It sizzled and left a black mark. It was very loud. The two technicians below looked up. They clicked in alarm. One of them ran to a comms panel. The other drew a small sidearm and looked around the room. June did not wait. He crawled away from the grate as fast as he could. He went back the way he came, then took a different turn. He found another grate that looked into the same room but from a higher, darker angle. He watched. As he hoped, the door to the room slid open and two armed guards rushed in. They spoke with the technicians in fast, worried clicks. The guards searched the room. They looked under consoles. They did not look up at the high, dark grate. After a few minutes, they seemed to decide it was a false alarm. Maybe a power surge. The guards left. The two technicians, however, stayed. They were nervous. They kept looking around. June had to risk it. He needed to get into that room. He found a vent cover that led directly into the room high up on the wall. It was too high to jump down from, but he saw his chance. There was a large pipe running along the ceiling. It was wide enough to walk on if he was careful. He quietly pushed the vent cover open. He climbed out into the room, his feet on the narrow pipe. The two technicians were below him, their backs turned, looking at the main console. He took a deep breath. He jumped. He landed hard on the floor behind them. The impact hurt his legs. The technicians spun around, their black eyes wide with shock. They clicked in surprise. June did not give them time to react. He raised the alien weapon. He did not shoot them. He shot the console in front of them. Sparks flew. The console screen went black. The two technicians stumbled back, clicking in panic. June pointed the weapon at them and then at the door. "Go," he said, his voice rough. They understood. They ran for the door and disappeared into the corridor. He was alone in the engineering room. Now he had to work fast. He looked at the panels. The symbols meant nothing to him, but the colors of the wires did. He saw a large bundle of yellow wires. Environmental controls. He found a main panel that was humming loudly. He used the sharp shard to pry it open. Inside was a complex web of crystals and lights. He saw a small, clear pipe. A green liquid was flowing through it. He did not know what it was, but it looked important. He did not smash it. That would cause an immediate alarm. He was not here to break things. He was here to sabotage. He was here to introduce a tiny, slow-acting flaw. He took the sharp shard. He carefully scratched the clear pipe. He made a hairline crack. It was so small you could barely see it. A single tiny drop of the green liquid seeped out and hit the floor with a hiss. Then it stopped. The crack was so fine that the liquid only seeped out when the pressure in the pipe was highest. It would take time, maybe hours. The level of whatever that liquid was would drop slowly. The system would try to compensate. It would start to fail bit by bit. It would make the air bad, or the temperature wrong. It would make the crew sick and slow. He closed the panel. He wiped his fingerprints away. He had done it. He had made the perfect ship imperfect. He heard clicks coming from the corridor. They were coming back. With more guards, he looked around. He could not go back the way he came. It was too slow. He saw a different door on the other side of the room. He ran to it. It slid open as he approached. He found himself in a new corridor. This one was darker. The walls were lined with large, clear tubes, and inside the tubes were people, other humans, men and women from different worlds. They were suspended in a blue liquid, asleep. They were the other specimens. He had found the collection. The sight stopped him cold. Dozens of humans frozen in blue tubes like insects in amber. Men and women. Some looked like they were from mining colonies, their clothes rough and practical. Others wore uniforms he did not recognize. They were all asleep, their faces peaceful, unaware of their nightmare. He saw the little girl G.A. from the dust ball. She was in a small tube near the front. Relief washed over him. She was alive, but he could not help them. Not yet. The sound of clicking was getting louder behind him. He had to move. He ran down the dark corridor away from the engineering room. His mind was racing. His sabotage would take time to work. He needed to do more. He needed to call for help. If he could find a communications room, he could send a signal. Someone might be listening. The ship was now on high alert. Alarms blared at different pitches. The steady red glow of the emergency lights made the gray corridors look like the inside of a beast. He could hear the running steps of the guards. Their clicks were sharp and angry. He moved like a ghost, sticking to the shadows. He used the map in his head, avoiding the main corridors he had memorized. He went down passages he had never seen before. He was looking for something, a room with antenna arrays on a schematic, a place with a lot of data conduits. He found a door that was different from the others. It was heavier, with a pattern of swirling lights around the frame. This looked important. He pressed the buttons on the stolen wrist device. The door slid open with a deep hum. The room inside was quiet and dark. The only light came from dozens of large screens showing star charts and streams of alien symbols. In the center of the room was a single large chair. This was the bridge, or something like it. A command center. It was empty. They were all searching for him. Their single escaped specimen. He went to the main console. The screens showed the ship's status. He could not read the words, but he understood the diagrams. A schematic of the ship flashed on one screen. A small section near the engineering room was pulsing with a warning symbol. His sabotage was already being detected. Good. He started touching the screen, trying to find a communications control. He tapped a symbol that looked like a star with waves coming out of it. The screen changed. It showed a complex diagram of frequencies and signals. This was it, but it was locked. A security prompt appeared, with alien text blinking angrily. He needed access codes. He thought about the director, the boss alien. It would have high-level codes. He could not get those. He looked at the wrist device he had taken from the guard. It had limited access. Maybe he could use it for something else. He remembered the technicians. They were not warriors. They were workers. They might have simple common codes for low-priority systems. He thought about the lazy guards, their relaxed attitude. Maybe security was not always perfect. He started typing random codes into the console. He tried sequences of numbers he had seen on the walls. He tried the number of his cell, 734. Nothing worked. The console beeped in rejection. He was running out of time. He could hear noises in the corridor outside. They would check the bridge soon. He looked at the guard's weapon. He could try to shoot the console, but that would probably just destroy it. He needed it to work. He needed to send a message. Then he had an idea. A desperate, crazy idea. He looked at the ship's schematic on the main screen. He saw a small blinking light in a remote part of the ship. A storage bay. It was far away from the bridge and the engineering room. He went back to the communications console. He entered a command he hoped was correct. He typed in the location of that remote storage bay. He set the system to send a high-priority automated distress signal from that location. It would look like a malfunction. A false alarm. He pressed enter. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a new alarm sounded. A different, higher-pitched sound. On the main screen, a warning flashed. Distress beacon activated, Bay 9. He heard frantic clicking from the corridor. He had done it. He had created a distraction. Now was his chance. While they were running to the storage bay, he could try to find the real communications array. The powerful one that could send a signal to another star system. He ran out of the bridge and back into the maze of corridors. He followed the thick bundles of blue wires he had seen in the crawl spaces. Blue for data. They would lead to the main computer core, and near that he would find the main comms. He found a large circular door. It had a symbol above it that looked like a dish sending out waves. This was the place. The door was sealed tight. It would not open with the guard's wrist device. He was trapped. He could hear the guards coming from both directions. Their clicks were close. They had him cornered. He looked around. There was a small access panel next to the door. A maintenance hatch. He used the sharp shard to pry it open. Inside was a mess of wires and crystals. It was the control system for the door. He did not have time to be careful. He grabbed a handful of the blue data wires and pulled. He ripped them out. Sparks flew. The circular door made a grinding noise and slid open a few inches, then stopped. The lights in the corridor flickered. He had broken it. He squeezed through the narrow opening. The room inside was huge and dark. In the center was a massive crystalline structure that reached from the floor to the ceiling. It pulsed with a soft inner light. This was the main computer, and along one wall was a panel covered in lights and controls. The communication station. He ran to it. The screen was active. This was his last chance. He had to send a message, a real one. He connected the guard's wrist device to the console. He used its limited access to open a simple text channel. He typed as fast as he could. He sent the ship's coordinates. He sent the internal schematic he had memorized. He labeled the rooms, bridge, engineering, specimen holding, then he typed a message. A simple one, a message for one person. I am here. They are vulnerable. He did not sign it with his name. He signed it with the secret word only he and his sister knew. The silly name she had for him when they were children. The word was squirrel. He pressed the send button. A progress bar appeared on the screen. It moved slowly. 10%. 20%. The signal was being sent. He heard the grinding sound of the door behind him. They were forcing it open. The light from the corridor spilled into the dark room. He saw the tall silhouettes of the guards. He saw the director, its black eyes burning with fury. He turned back to the console. 80%, 90% to it. The guards rushed in. They grabbed him. They pulled him away from the console. He did not fight. He was too tired. The director walked to the console. It looked at the screen. The progress bar was at 100%. The message was gone. It had been sent. The director turned to June. Its face was a mask of cold rage. It clicked one word. The electronic voice from a guard's device spoke. What have you done? June looked at the director. He was not scared anymore. He was calm. I sent a message, he said. The director stared at him. For the first time, June saw something new in its black eyes. It was not just anger. It was a flicker of doubt. A sliver of fear. The aliens dragged June out of the comms room. They did not take him back to his cell. They took him to a different place. A larger room with a high ceiling. They chained him to a metal post in the center of the room. The director stood in front of him. The other aliens formed a circle around them. They were all looking at him. The primitive specimen, the one who had broken their perfect ship. The director spoke, its clicks slow and deliberate. The electronic voice said, "You are an error. A flaw, we will correct you." June said nothing. He just looked back at them. He had done what he could. The message was sent. The flaw was in their system. Now he could only wait. He looked at the circle of alien faces. He saw the confusion in their eyes. They could not understand him. They could not understand how one weak, simple human had caused so much trouble. He closed his eyes. He thought of Hannah. He hoped she was listening. The Cathar ship drifted in the empty space between stars. It was a silent, dark knife against a backdrop of endless black. But inside it was sick. June's small sabotage was working. The environmental systems were failing. The air was becoming thin and stale. The temperature was slowly dropping. The Cathar crew moved with a sluggish irritation. Their clicks were slower, their reactions delayed. Their perfect machine was breaking down, and they did not know how to fix a problem they had never faced before. June hung from the metal post in the large room. His arms ached. The cold bit into his skin. The director stood before him, its large black eyes fixed on him. It had asked him many questions. How did he break the systems? What was the flaw? How did a primitive thing like him understand their technology? June did not answer. He just looked back, his face calm. This made the director even angrier. It could not understand his silence. It could not understand his lack of fear. A loud alarm blared through the ship. This was a new sound. It was not the internal alarm for a prisoner escape. It was the high, sharp sound of an external proximity alert. Something was outside. On the bridge, a Cathar technician stared at its screen. A small object had appeared on the sensors. It was very close. It had not come out of a warp jump. It had simply arrived. It was a ship. A small human ship. The technician clicked in confusion. It was a single vessel. A frigate class. It was tiny compared to the Cathar ship. It was no threat. It was like an insect buzzing near a giant. The director received the report. It clicked in dismissal. It was a coincidence. A human scout that had stumbled upon them. They would destroy it and continue. It gave the order to target the small ship. But the human ship did not act like a scout. It did not run. It did not try to communicate. It moved. It was fast. Unnaturally fast. It spun and darted like a living thing. It flew straight towards them. On the view screen, the human ship grew larger. It was old and looked patched together. Its name was painted in rough letters on the hull, Morning Star. The Cathar weapons officer fired. A bolt of green energy shot towards the small ship. The Morning Star did not try to evade. At the last second, it tilted its nose up. The green bolt passed harmlessly beneath it. It was as if the pilot had known exactly when and where the shot would come. The director leaned forward, its eyes narrowing. This was not a coincidence. Inside the Morning Star, Hana's hands flew across the controls. Her eyes were hard and focused. She had received the message. The word squirrel had flashed on her screen with a set of coordinates and a ship schematic. Her brother was alive, and he had given her a map. She saw the Cathar ship on her screen. It was big and scary, but June's schematic showed her its weaknesses. She saw the locations of the main comms array, the bridge, and the engines. She saw the best angle of attack. She did not call for help. There was no time, and she did not need it. She was a pilot. This was what she did. The Cathar ship fired again, multiple weapons this time. A web of green energy filled the space around her. Hana pushed the controls. Her ship danced through the blasts. She weaved and rolled, moving in patterns that made no sense to the Cathar targeting computers. She was unpredictable. She was human. She flew straight at the Cathar ship like a bullet aimed at its heart. The Cathar shields flared as she approached. But she was not firing at the shields. She was not trying to blow it up. At the last possible second, she pulled up. Her ship skimmed the surface of the massive alien vessel. As she flew over it, she fired a single precise shot from a low-power laser. It was not a weapon designed to pierce armor. It was a cutting tool. The laser beam hit the long, delicate structure of the Cathar communications array. It sliced through the crystalline material. The array shattered into a million glittering pieces. Now the big ship could not call for help. The director stared at the view screen in shock. Their communications were gone. This human had not even tried to fight them. It had just made them mute. Hana swung her ship around for another pass. The Cathar point defense guns tried to track her, but she was too fast, too close to their hull. She flew along the ship's spine towards the engineering section. June's map glowed in her mind. She fired 2 more precise shots. They hit the housing of the primary thruster nozzles. The metal twisted and fused. The Cathar ship shuddered. It could still move, but it could not run. It was crippled. Now the big ship was angry and scared. It fired everything it had. The space around the Morning Star became a storm of green light. A blast caught her ship's wing. The Morning Star shook violently. An alarm sounded inside her cockpit. A fire warning. She ignored it. She had one more target. The bridge. She flew straight towards the front of the ship. The Cathar concentrated their fire. A wall of energy was in front of her. There was no way through. Hana smiled a cold, hard smile. She opened a channel. She sent a simple, tight beam message to the Cathar ship. It was on a frequency June had specified in his data burst, a maintenance channel. The message was just one word, a name, June. In the large room, June heard the electronic voice of a guard's device crackle. It spoke the word, June. The director turned its head. It was confused. Where did that come from? June looked up. He understood. It was a signal. It was Hana. She was here. He looked the director in its black eyes. For the first time, he spoke to it without being asked a question. She is here, June said, his voice quiet but clear. My sister. The distraction was all Hana needed. While the Cathar were confused by the internal communication, she dove. Her ship dropped down below the line of fire and then shot upwards right at the bridge viewport. She did not fire a laser. She fired a magnetic harpoon. A thick metal cable shot out from her ship and slammed into the thick, transparent material of the bridge viewport. The cable went taut. The Cathar on the bridge stared in confusion. What was this? What was the human doing? Hana pushed the throttle of the Morning Star to its maximum. Her damaged ship strained. The engines screamed. The magnetic harpoon held fast. She was pulling. There was a sound like thunder. A web of cracks appeared on the bridge viewport. The Cathar clicked in panic. The director turned from June, its eyes wide with a new, pure fear. The viewport shattered. The air inside the bridge exploded out into the vacuum of space. Cathar were pulled from their chairs, screaming silent clicks as they were flung into the void. The director grabbed a console, holding on for its life. The ship was breached. It was dying. Then a new sound, the deep, powerful thrum of human warship engines. The cavalry had arrived. Hana's message had been received by others, and they had followed her trail. A large human cruiser dropped out of warp nearby. Its bay doors opened. Smaller, armored boarding pods shot out like bullets, heading straight for the holes in the Cathar ship. The Marines were coming. The Cathar resistance broke. The ship was crippled. Their bridge was destroyed, and now professional human soldiers were storming their halls. The fight did not last long. June heard the sounds of battle, the sharp crack of human projectile weapons and the sizzle of energy blasts. He heard shouts in his own language. "Clear! Move up!" The door to the large room was blown open. Human Marines in heavy armor stormed in, their guns pointed at the few remaining Cathar guards. The guards dropped their weapons. A Marine ran to June and cut the chains from the post. June fell to his knees, his body weak with relief. He was led through the ship. He saw Marines rounding up the surviving Cathar. He saw them opening the specimen tubes, carefully waking the sleeping humans. He saw the little girl, G.A., being wrapped in a thermal blanket by a medic. They took him to a shuttle. As he was about to board, he saw a group of Marines bringing out the director. Its proud posture was gone. It was just a tired, defeated creature. It saw June. Their eyes met. The director clicked one last time. The electronic voice on a Marine's translator device spoke the words flatly. "You are just one. You are weak." June stopped. He looked at the alien. He was not angry. He was just tired. "You took a logistics manager," June said, his voice quiet. "You thought I was a thing to be studied. You introduced a variable your perfect system could not account for." He turned and walked into the shuttle without looking back. Later, on the human cruiser, he was in the medical bay. Hana was there, her arm in a sling from the crash landing of the Morning Star. She hugged him tightly with her good arm. A high-ranking officer came to see him. The officer looked at the reports. One human. He had disabled a guard, sabotaged a capital ship's systems, and provided the intelligence for its capture. "How did you do it?" the officer asked. "You are not a soldier." June thought about it. He looked at his sister, then back at the officer. "They were very organized," June said. "They had a system for everything. I just found a few places where the system did not work." The galaxy would hear the story. They would hear how the Cathar seized one human, and they would learn how the galaxy paid for that mistake. Not with a great war, but with the quiet, patient, and terrifying power of one man who simply refused to be a specimen.